Welcome to NEXTGames video on how to solo the high-tier mission battlefield Shiva Prime on Very Difficult. Shiva Prime is July 2019's Deed of Heroism objective, so I figured it would be a good time to do this video. Even though this video is for Shiva Prime, these same strategies can be used to fight any of the standard 6 elemental avatars. Before we see the battle, let's briefly go over the spells and abilities that you will see Shiva Prime using. First, let's start with Shiva Prime's abilities. The first one will be Frost Armor. This will give Shiva an Ice Spikes effect that will paralyze you in almost every melee hit. Therefore, it's important that Koru and Arcelia dispel this quickly, which they're usually very good at. The other reason why we have both Koru and Arcelia summoned in the same fight is so that if one of them dies, we still have someone who is able to dispel Shiva. Because if Frost Armor is kept up, it will slow down the fight dramatically. The next ability we're going to talk about is Rush. This is a 5-hit melee attack on a single target. It's normally going to strip all of your remaining shadows, so when you see Shiva readying this, just go ahead and get ready to recast your shadows as soon as you see it land. The next ability we'll talk about is Heavenly Strike. This inflicts massive AoE damage in a fairly large radius, and will ignore your Utsemi shadows. This means it's not going to wipe those shadows, but those shadows aren't going to help you with the damage either. This can do upwards of 2,000 damage, so I recommend you keep up Migawari for most of this fight, just to help out your white mage with this damage. The next ability is Diamond Dust. It will inflict massive AoE ice damage in a large radius similar to Heavenly Strike, but this one will wipe your shadows, and will also reset Shiva Prime's weaknesses, which I will talk about here shortly. Next, let's talk about Shiva's magic spells that you'll see. She will use Freeze 2, Blizzard 5, and Blizzaga. Just go ahead and let Freeze 2 and Blizzard 5 bounce off your shadows and just use that time while she's casting to get in as much damage as you can. But you want to stun Shiva with the weakness trigger anytime she is casting Blizzaga. If you have already used your weakness triggers, you have to ensure that you have Migawari up, because a Diamond Dust can finish you in one hit. Lastly, let's talk about the weakness system. All of the Prime avatars have an innate damage reduction of 30% and a potent end spell damage. To remove this reduction, you want to trigger the weakness. You can trigger weaknesses by using a weapon skill, ability, offensive magic, or pet ability on Shiva while she is casting a spell. Please note that once a trigger is used, it cannot be used again until the next use of Diamond Dust. Diamond Dust will also reset all triggers you've previously used, which means Shiva's damage reduction will reset to 30% after each Diamond Dust. Now let's talk about how to trigger these different weaknesses. The yellow weakness will usually be triggered by Koru or Arcelia within the first minute of the fight, which will remove the physical resistance Shiva has. If they happen to not do this, you want to use an elemental ninjutsu spell while she is casting to go ahead and remove that physical resistance. The red weakness will be triggered when you use a weapon skill during one of her castings. If possible, I recommend trying to save this trigger until one of her uses of Blizzaga. This trigger will also reduce the end spell damage that you will receive if she does happen to hit you with a melee hit. The blue weakness should be saved until she is casting Blizzaga, because it is the easiest one for you to use. All you have to do is simply use Provoke during one of her castings of Blizzaga, and it will interrupt her casting. This trigger will also remove the magic resistance that Shiva has. The white trigger is triggered by pet abilities and cannot be triggered by this party setup, but just know that if it were triggered, it would remove Shiva's range resistance. Other than that, just make sure you keep up Yonin at all times, and also try and keep up Migawari as much as you can to help with that damage that you'll be taking from Heavenly Strike and Damage Dust. Now that you're aware of the weakness system, and the abilities and spells that Shiva Prime will be using, let's go ahead and see how one of these fights will go. For Trust, I'm using Seth to continually restore HP, MP, and TP to the party. Using Ulmia for March. I'm using Korumoru and Arcelia 2 for extra cures, haste, and dispel, and lastly, Yoran Oran, to cure me and to get paralyzed off me as quickly as possible. Enjoy the fight, everyone. and that is Shiva Prime on Very Difficult. I hope that video was helpful to some people. If anyone has any questions or comments, go ahead and post them down there in the comment section. You'll notice no armor dropped. That's because I actually have all of the armor from this particular fight already. If you're going to beat this on Very Difficult, you can expect at least 1 or 2 armor drops each fight, so it is a good difficulty to fight it on if you can take it. Everyone have a good week.